All right, before I was so rudely interrupted. What was I saying? Uniaxial joint is a hinge joint or a pivot joint. Remember that it's an irregular motion occurring in one plane around one axis. Pretty much you move pretty much in one direction, one axis. A biaxial joint allows motion in two different directions, and that would be a condyle joint and a saddle joint. For a condyle joint, be your MCP, which is your metacarpal phalanges, and saddle joint. Think of your thumb, your CMC, which is your carpal metacarpal. How it sits in there, how your thumb sits in there like a saddle. Triaxial joints. It's a multi-axial joint. Pretty much allows motion in all three axes. axes. Which is pretty much a ball and socket joint, which allows more motion than any other joint. So think of your hips. And obviously the main one, your shoulder. Alright, going on to joint structures. Bones are two bones that articulate with each other. Ligaments are bonds of fibrous connective tissue that holds together two bones and gives them support. Every synovial joint has a capsule, and the capsule surrounds and encloses the joint to protect the articular surfaces of the bone. Synovial fluid is a thick, clear fluid that lubricates the articular cartilage and reduces friction and acts as a shock absorption. Cartilage is a dense fibrous connective tissue. Dense fibrous connective tissue. There's three types of cartilage. Hyaline cartilage, also known as articular cartilage, which provides a smooth articular surface. It lacks its own blood or nerve supply, so it has to get that from the synovial fluid, and it cannot repair itself on its own. So once you lose those cartilages, you're gonna have to get something done medically. And you anyway, fibrocartilage is the second type of cartilage. It acts as a shock absorber. It's important for weight bearing, such as in the knee and the vertebrae. And elastic cartilage, which helps maintain a structure or shape, pretty much found in your external ear and in your larynx. Tendons. It connects muscle to bone. And your bursa is small pad-like sacs that's underneath the muscles. That's underneath the muscles and like right at the tendon, and it reduces friction. Common common terms that when you get hurt, it is your boo-boos, god dang it. Anyway, a dislocation is a complete separation of two articular surfaces of a joint. It's a complete separation. Dislocation, a complete separation. A subluxation is a partial dislocation of a joint. Osteoarthritis is arthritis caused by breakdown and loss of cartilage in joints, and eventually an eventual loss of cartilage in joints. Sprains are partial or complete tearing of ligaments. Sprains is a partial or complete tearing of ligaments. And remember, ligaments is bands of fibrous connective tissue that holds together two bones and gives supports them. A strain is a overstretching of muscle fibers. So when you overstretch a muscle, you're gonna strain it. Hurts. Trust. Both the sprain and the strain are graded depending on level of severity, which is mild, moderate, and severe. God. Tendinitis is inflammation of a tendon, and the tendon connects muscle to bone. Synoviitis is inflammation of the synovial membrane. Tendon synovius is inflammation of the tendon sheath. Bursitis is inflammation of the bursa. Capitis is inflammation of the joint capsule. And remember, all the itis are inflammations. Joints. Oh, planes. Let's go with planes before I turn this shit off. All right. So, I don't have any notes for this, but planes and axes. Pretty much, planes are fixed lines of the vision, and axes are points that run through the center of joints. So let's see. Sagittal plane. So your sagittal plane, and think of like as you're walking, moving your arms. In the sagittal plane, only flexion can occur, and it pretty much splits your body into left and right halves. So imagine there's a line right here. That's your sagittal plane. Your frontal plane is going to divide your body to anterior and posterior. Think of jumping jacks. And abduction and adduction occurs in the frontal plane. Transverse plane, pretty much you're going to be cutting that in half, and it divides into upper and lower parts. For your axis, pretty much your sagittal axis is going to be going, I think about it as sagittal axis goes through like your belly button and out the back. So there's an imaginary pole that goes through you. It's going to go through you this way. All right, your frontal axis is going to go through your side, just like the frontal plane. And your vertical axis is coming straight down, like straight through your forehead, not your butt. So anyway, with the planes and axes, if you're moving into sagittal axis, in the sagittal plane, all of your motion occurs within the frontal axis. If you're moving in your frontal plane, all the motion occurs in the sagittal axis. Just make sure I didn't mess up the first one. So if you're moving in the sagittal plane, you're moving. If you're in the sagittal plane, you're moving in the frontal axis. If you're moving in the frontal plane, you're going to move in the sagittal axis. For transverse plane, has to do with rotation. If you're moving, you're rotating in some way, shape, and or form, son, and that's going to be on the vertical axis. And your center of gravity is where the point where three planes intersects. So pretty much that's the second sacral. Yeah, the second sacral vertebrae. That's where all the points meet. Degrees of freedom. Number of planes in which joints can move, which is pretty much what we went over. Uniaxial joint, biaxial joint, and triaxial joint. Those pretty much determine your degrees of freedom. So yeah, now we're done.